Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to Wolfinia. This is episode 300 of my Minecraft survival series, and in the last episode, we did a little bit of work over here at the quarantine district of Wolfen's laboratory. We finally began work on the Reaper project down there. Now, we're not going to be continuing the Reaper today. I think we'll get back to that next episode, because this is the 300th episode. It's a special episode, and we're not going to spend it doing a world tour around Wolfinia like we would normally do for such an episode. I'm going to reserve the world tours for when I feel like actually doing them and not making progress in the city. Instead, what we're going to do is a special project. We're going to properly get started on a new area, a new district here in Wolfinia, the Outer Residential District. But before we get around to that, I do have some stuff to do. I need to go check on all the redstone we've installed recently, make sure everything's still working. The bone block auto crafter, that's all good, but there's a couple more I need to check on, so just bear with me a moment, please. Thank you. Owie. Paper production, all good. And as far as slime block production goes, well, this is me from the future who has been doing a little bit of work with auto crafters, and in the process made a stunning realization. That realization being that none of this is actually required for this particular process, because it could be simplified with an always-on observer clock, which is just going to keep the crafter crafting. That's all we really need. The slime balls go in, they'll be made into slime blocks. Slime blocks get spit into here, sucked down into the storage system, and get put away. And that's it. That's all that needs to happen. And just so we can be sure, the minecart has returned with a bunch of slime balls that you can now see are being crafted into slime blocks, and everything is good here. Yeah. I can learn. I learned something. This old dog learned a new trick. It's a simple one, but it still counts. Yeah, no, I think I'm good. Because I don't really need the puffer fish, because the bucket would come in handy, but I gotta release them somewhere in the city, and that's not going to be good for anybody. So, yeah, thank you. I appreciate you coming over here to do business. I'm just doing some stuff here, getting prepared for the day. Ignore this. You don't see that. Now, as far as today's project goes here in the new Outer Residential District, I think how we're going to get started is we're going to separate the buildable area here from this outer area. Because the more I think about it, the more I like these outer perimeter gardens here we have going all around Wolfinia. Because I don't know, I like them. I just like them. They add to the beautification of the city. So what we're going to do is continue the gardens past the power tower here over to this area. And on the opposite side, which we're not really going to touch today, aside from the perimeter gardens, we will continue them over here to this power tower. So that way they basically go around the entire city. And while that does decrease our buildable area, ultimately I think that's going to look better. Now, since we don't have the wall continuing this way, I think maybe a planter or something here to separate the spaces would be good. That way we'll have the outer residential district and the perimeter gardens, and the villagers will absolutely pay attention to the delineation between the two, right? Anyway, I think it's about time we get started on this, the outer perimeter gardens. So, at this point, let's go ahead and call the drone on over here, put on a little bit of music, and get to work. Welcome back, everybody. At this point, we do have our outer perimeter gardens, our redundant gardens around the perimeter of the outside of Wolfinia. I am missing the cherry leaves that we have elsewhere in other gardens. I didn't have any available to me, so I think we will add some of those to the gardens once I actually take the time to collect some. And in fact, I suppose I should maybe just not be lazy and complete this project while we're on it. And I think that should just about do it for us. So, at this point, we've got some cherry wood to build with. We got some saplings. We have more leaves than I will probably ever use. But I am going to use some, so I might as well just go ahead and distribute them now. And there we go. That wasn't so hard. We got our cherry leaves distributed, and I absolutely could have done that in the time lapse, and probably should have done that in the time lapse. Now, if you've been here for a while, you probably know that when we build here in Wolfinia, we often build without a real plan as far as a layout goes, like what building, what structure is going to be where. Turns out Mr. Wolfens doesn't especially like that, so we're going to try something a bit different with the residential district. What we're going to do is we're going to, well, get a layout in. So what I'm planning on doing is drawing out some of the foundations of our buildings. Now, you might have noticed we got some brown blocks over here. Some of these blocks we have in abundance. For instance, mud. We got plenty of mud. But brown mushroom blocks, we don't have too much of that. So what I'm thinking is, since I do want to build our foundations out of this particular block palette, we might have to go collect some. Now, fortunately, we do have plenty of brown mushrooms from which to get our brown mushroom blocks. The problem is there is only really one dedicated mushroom farming area in the area, and that is over here at Enchantry Isle. Barely get the word out. You know how much Mr. Wolfens detests this place. Therefore, I detest this place. But we gotta do what we gotta do, right? So, at this point, I think we're just going to suck it up and plant some mushrooms and collect some brown mushroom blocks. So, let's go ahead and call the drone on over here, put on a little bit of music, and get to it so that way we can just be done with this place. And that should just about do it. So we do have a couple shulkers worth of material here. Plenty enough for what we should be using it for anyway. At least plenty enough for what I have planned as of now. So I think what we're going to do is go ahead and get out of this place, which, by the way, is not conducive to good farming, and get back to, well, greener pastures. Now, as far as our layout of the outer residential district, a couple things need to happen. Number one, I want to get some roads in here. We're going to go ahead and lay out the roads first, and based on the layout of those roads, we will determine where structures will go in this area, with one small exception. Because I do want all the roads based around one structure that's going to be kind of here at the center of the residential district. Now, what this structure is, I'm not quite sure yet. A tower of some sort, most likely. But basically, whenever we enter this area, I want something visible at the center, because we won't see the houses on the far end, but we will see that, right? We want something to serve as kind of a landmark, is what I'm thinking. In much the same way, if we're on this side of the district, we won't be able to see the houses because they will be blocked by other houses, but we will see that landmark at the center which is why everything is going to revolve around that. So I've set aside some area for whatever this future build is going to be. Hopefully there's a generous enough space, but we're going to have a road that's going to wrap around this, and that is one thing I know for sure at this point. However, as far as the rest of our roads go, typically we've kept to just having winding roads that just connect pre-existing structures, and there's no real order to them. I think since we've done that quite a bit, we're going to try something different over here as well and, make our roads somewhat organized. And then as far as getting the outline for where our structures are ultimately going to be, we'll get a base for the foundation in here in stone brick. And then we'll, of course, add a bit of block variation with these other brown blocks that we have, and just draw out a simple foundation for each of the structures. I'm not sure how big they're going to be, if we want them to be like single villager homes or, if they accommodate multiple families. Right now, I'm kind of leaning towards the latter. So that is the basic idea, and I am curious to see how this new approach works out for us, if it's going to change our way of doing things here in Wolfinia. I guess it's time to find out. Let's go ahead and call the drone on over here, put on a little bit of music, and get to work. Welcome back, everybody. At this point, we do have a general layout for our residential district over there. We'll have a look at that in just a minute, but I decided that I don't like the moss that's in these planters. It kind of blends in too much with the perimeter garden. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and get rid of this for now and replace it with something else later. All right, now that that's taken care of, we can get back to business. So, we do have what I'm going to call a rough layout of the residential district here. And go ahead and take a quick peek at it. Anyway, we now have our layout in here. You can see the foundations of each of our future structures. Some of them might be a single dwelling. Some of them might be split in half to accommodate for multiple dwellings in the same structure. I suppose I could poll the villagers, see what they'd prefer, or just give them the option by doing, both in this area. Point being, there's still some considerations to be made. One such other consideration is the level that our actual ground is going to be on. The ground is below our road as of right now, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, because the entrance to each of our structures is going to be slightly elevated above the road. We could extend the ground to be at that same level, so where the road is actually recessed. I don't know. That's something I'm going to have to give some thought to. Another thing I kind of decided in the moment is that our roads are only going to be about 3 wide out here to accommodate for our structures, which is narrower than I initially anticipated. Which kind of means you ain't going anywhere with this wagon over here. Look at him. He is already ready to go. He's waiting for a fire. But because our roads are only 3 blocks wide and our wagon over here is 5 blocks wide, it's going to be a little difficult to navigate unless we shrink it down a little bit. So I think that's probably going to be necessary. You know what? This is going to be my wheel, so I'm going to need you to excuse me for a moment while I retrofit your vehicle. And there we go. So now we have a wagon the size of which can be accommodated by our roads. Look at this fellow over here. He changed professions. He got so tired of waiting for these to come back. Anyway, the wagon is now of a suitable size to actually fit through these doors and make it elsewhere into the city, provided it has good suspension, because we got stairs here. What we might have to do is add a ramp here eventually. I mean, not today, but eventually, because the wagon does have to be able to, you know, make it into the city. Hey, excuse me. Hi, friend. You know, I was out here lighting this place up for you so you'd be safe and all. Couldn't help but notice you stole my bed. This is my bed. You got a bed in the firehouse. Go take that one. You know, I understand. All right, I understand. He doesn't want to sleep in the firehouse every night. So I think what we're going to do before we finish off this episode is we'll go ahead and build that guy a house. Little place to call his own. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to, because it's going to belong to the guy who works at the firehouse, we're going to go ahead and make it in roughly the same block palette as the firehouse, or at least a very similar block palette. Look at this guy. He's going for it again. He's going to take my bed again. You're going to take my bed again, aren't you? Look at you. Got your eye patch back on? Yeah, back to your old tricks, I see. Anyway, we're going to construct this in a similar block palette to the firehouse. That way this guy knows which house is his. And we'll probably do this one right here because it's far enough away from the firehouse that we're not going to get too much of the same block palette in the same area. Yeah, that's fine. I can stare too. You want to stare? I can stare. Look at us. Staring. Anyway, I think what we're going to go ahead and do is go ahead and build our first villager house here in the outer residential district. And I think we're going to go ahead and get right into it. So at this point, let's go ahead and call the drone on over here, put on a little bit of music, and get to work. Welcome back, everybody. At this point, we do have our first villager house of Wolfinia's outer residential district now complete. And you know what? Looking at that in the firehouse, they don't look that similar, so I'm actually pretty happy with that. Now, I mean, overall, it's a pretty simple house. I'm not going to end up doing too much with these houses. It's 2 stories tall, which means this one over here, though, is going to have to be a little bit bigger. Probably 3 stories, owie. So that way it can be seen above this house to add a bit more depth to the district when viewed from afar, you know? But as far as the interior goes, interior furnishings are pretty bare. We have, it's a furnished area, you know, we got some basic seating here, nice little fireplace. I can't get my butt on this couch. But over here, we got a little table set up. That's about it for the downstairs. If we head upstairs, you can see we have a little common area here at the center. On either side, we have one bedroom over here, which accommodates two, another bedroom over here, which accommodates one. And I mean, that's about it. It's bare as far as furnishings go, but I figure the villagers can decorate their own houses. On top of that, well, decorations just aren't in Mr. Wolfen's approved budget. But overall, I think this is a good start to our residential district. Another thing I should mention is the spacing in between each of these houses. And this probably isn't a good example because we barely have any space here at all in between these ones. But I did try to account for the overhang because you can see this is the foundation. Then we got like a 2-block overhang. And I wanted some space in between these houses because this one will probably have the same 2-block overhang as this one does. That's just another thing I had to take into account while I was doing the layout here. Another reason why I had to shrink down the roads. But I think, 5 blocks between seems to be the sweet spot. But at this point, I think we can finally say work on the residential district has begun. Dang it! I cannot land on that thing. Well, that is going to do it for us here today, guys. I do want to thank you for joining me for 300 episodes in this world. That is awesome. There are also many more episodes to come. I do hope you enjoyed this one, and I do hope you'll stick around for the next one. Either way, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I deeply appreciate it. And until next time, I will see you guys later.